My daughter was born with a congenital heart defect. My wife, Clara Thompson, is a pharmaceutical researcher, and the company she works for developed a specialized medication for a rare heart disease. When my daughter's heart stopped, she urgently needed this life-saving drug. However, my wife gave her something else, her unforgettable first love. As a result, my daughter missed the crucial window for treatment and tragically passed away on the way to the hospital. Chapter 1. Sophia was born with a congenital heart defect. From the moment she arrived, she was a tiny, adorable bundle of joy. As a first-time father, I was overwhelmed with happiness. But when the doctor's words came crashing down on me, they felt like a lightning bolt. Your daughter has a congenital heart defect. You should prepare for the worst. After her C-section delivery, my daughter was immediately rushed to the neonatal intensive care unit. Through the thick isolation door, I caught my first glimpse of her lying quietly in the sterile incubator. Her dark, curious eyes were studying this new world around her. In that moment, I silently promised myself that I would do whatever it took to ensure she survived. From the age of 2, Sophia began undergoing heart surgeries. At such a young age, she endured more than any child should ever have to face. My wife, Clara, works in the pharmaceutical industry, where her company developed a medication for heart diseases that has received several prestigious medical patents. Even though Sophia's surgeries were successful, she couldn't run and play like the other children. I gave her a heart rate monitor watch to keep track of her heart condition. Over the years, I worked tirelessly, climbing the career ladder, earning promotions, and receiving salary increases. By the time, I had already spent over $1,000,000 on Sophia's treatments. But I had no regrets. My biggest wish was for my daughter to grow up healthy and happy. Clara's job was relatively easy compared to mine. She spent a lot of time with Sophia and was well versed in pharmacology and emergency procedures. Recently, our nanny took a leave of absence for personal reasons, so Clara was taking care of Sophia at home. One evening, while I was working late, I received a call from Sophia. Her heart rate monitor was beeping wildly, and her voice was faint but filled with panic. "Daddy, my chest hurts and I can't breathe," she said. My heart sank as I grabbed my car keys and rushed out the door. "Where's your mother?" I asked in a panic. "Mommy went out. I'm home alone," she answered through soft sobs. I could hardly process the words. How could my wife leave our daughter alone in her condition? With no time to question my wife, I sped home, running red lights along the way. Recently, my wife had been distant, and it seemed that she had lost herself in the return of her unforgettable first love. Her attention was no longer focused on Sophia, or even me. When I arrived home, I found my daughter's small, frail body curled up on the floor. Her face was pale, her lips drained of color, and she groaned in pain. "Daddy, I feel so bad. I can't breathe," she whispered. Her heart rate had spiked to a dangerous 120 beats per minute. I quickly carried her to the bed and began performing CPR, but her condition didn't improve. I searched the house for the life-saving medication, but I couldn't find it. Panic set in. I shakily called my wife, but she mercilessly hung up on me. Chapter 2. After what felt like an eternity, the call finally connected, and my wife's irritated voice came through. "Ethan, can't a married person have some personal space? I'm busy, and I don't have time for this nonsense." Her cold, dismissive tone pierced through me like a blade. I tried to hide my panic. "Are you with Jasper?" I asked, feeling a bitter knot form in my chest. Clara's tone immediately changed, her anger flaring. "Jasper got hurt. I had to bring him the medication. His heart is acting up." Her words stung, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. "So you took our daughter's life-saving medication to help him instead?" I asked, my voice trembling with frustration. She let out an exasperated sigh. "Ethan, would you be happy if Jasper died?" The words cut deeper than anything she had ever said before. My heart tightened in my chest. "Taking our daughter's medication will kill her. How can you be so thoughtless?" I couldn't continue. I was talking to someone whose priorities had become so narrow and distorted that I couldn't reason with her. "Goodbye," she said before hanging up without another word. My daughter's condition was critical, but the ambulance still hadn't arrived. "Daddy, Sophia can hold on. Let's not disturb Mommy, she'll be mad, she whispered. I lied, telling her, Mommy's just too busy right now. You're her treasure. She would never leave you. As I spoke, I watched my daughter's face grow even paler, her heart rate remaining dangerously high. Every passing second was a life-or-death moment for her. In a panic, I called my wife over and over again, but she refused to answer. Then the line went dead. Her phone was switched off. When I heard the automated message that her phone was off, a cold shiver ran down my spine. It was as though the world around me had gone ice cold. Sophia's face turned blue, and she showed clear signs of cardiac arrest. Finally, the ambulance arrived, and they rushed her to the hospital. Doctors and nurses worked tirelessly, taking turns with CPR, but it was too late. Sophia never regained a heartbeat. She passed away on the way to the hospital, and I held her in my arms, watching as she slipped away. My heart shattered as I watched her body grow cold, and all I could do was cry, helpless to stop what had happened. I couldn't believe that my precious daughter was gone forever, father and daughter, separated now by life and death. When the doctor pronounced her dead, his words felt like a heavy weight, marking the exact time of her passing. I collapsed at the door of the emergency room, my mind completely blank. Even after Sophia's death, my wife, Clara, kept her phone off, focused solely on Jasper, completely indifferent to our daughter's fate. Sophia had always been so considerate, constantly worried about being a burden to us, living carefully every day. Even when her mother abandoned her, taking the life-saving medication, Sophia never once blamed her. That kind little angel left her loving father behind and went to heaven alone. I returned home to an empty house, spent the night smoking one cigarette after another on the balcony, waiting for Clara to come back. It wasn't until 3 a.m. that she finally returned. Chapter 3. Why was your phone off? Were you afraid I'd interrupt your reunion with Jasper? I demanded. Clara reacted violently, her anger flaring. Ethan, Jasper and I are innocent. Stop slandering us, I sneered, frustrated by her defense. Hiding your whereabouts and meeting him is innocent? Being alone together is innocent? Clara's anger only deepened. You know why I married you. If it weren't for your interference, Jasper and I would never have been separated. Jasper's a trust fund kid who loves motorcycles and hangs out with thugs. To others, he's a delinquent, but to me, he's the epitome of cool. She was obsessed with him, so much so that she was willing to leave behind her high-paying, comfortable job and run away with him. Her father, unable to watch her ruin her future, forcibly separated them. When I met Clara, I was already a project manager at a private company. Young, handsome, and successful. I fell for her the moment I saw her and pursued her relentlessly. Her father, a partner in our company, approved of me and helped me marry her. Once we were married, I treated her with the utmost care, striving to be a good husband. In our second year of marriage, our daughter Sophia was born, and I was overjoyed with our family life. But reality soon struck. Clara had always been cold to me, though she doted on our daughter. If Jasper hadn't come back, our peaceful life might have continued. But when Clara heard about Jasper's accident, she abandoned our daughter and rushed to be with him, taking the life-saving medication with her. Sophia, unable to be left alone, was abandoned by her mother during the most critical moment, while Clara was consumed with worry for her unforgettable first love. When Sophia died, Clara was with him, never leaving his side. After returning home late that night, Clara didn't even ask about our daughter. I was beyond words. Is Jasper so important that he's worth more than our daughter's life? I screamed. Clara, furious, shot back. Are you afraid that if Jasper and I rekindle our romance, you'll divorce me? I paused for a moment before answering calmly. If you're so attached to your first love, let's get a divorce. For all these years, I had showered her with love, trying to make her happy, fearing she might suffer. On anniversaries and Valentine's Day, I spoiled her with gifts. I would have done anything for her, even tried to get her the stars if that's what she wanted. Yet, she was never satisfied, constantly giving me the cold shoulder and even bringing up divorce. So, if she wanted it so badly, I was ready to give it to her. Clara exploded at the word divorce. Ethan, I just delivered some medicine to Jasper. Is that worth such a reaction? She recklessly relied on my love for her, hurting me again and again while maintaining her ambiguous relationship with her ex, thinking I wouldn't dare to mention divorce. But this time, she had miscalculated. My heart shattered. "I'll have the divorce papers drawn up by the lawyer and sent to you." Clara's voice was sharp, filled with disbelief. "Ethan, are you serious?" She rushed into the room, searching for our daughter, the very same daughter she had used to manipulate me. I closed my eyes in pain. "Stop looking. Our daughter is already gone." Clara slapped me hard. "Where did you hide her?" she demanded, threatening me. "After the divorce, you won't get custody of her." I could barely breathe, my throat tight with emotion. Tears welled up in my eyes. If my wife only knew that by giving the life-saving medication to her unforgettable first love, she had caused our daughter's death, would she regret it? Chapter 4. My wife was convinced I was hiding our daughter and took me to court. Filing a lawsuit that night, we had a huge argument, leaving us on bad terms. She ignored our daughter's memory and left the house in the middle of the night. Worried for her safety, I quickly drove after her. But when I followed her, she didn't go to a friend's house. Instead, she knocked on the door of her unforgettable first love's home. What I saw when I arrived froze me in place. There, in Jasper's arms, Clara was sweetly nestled, complaining about me. "Ethan, that bastard used every trick to force me to marry him, and now he wants a divorce," she cried pitifully, looking delicate and sorrowful. Jasper held her close, comforting her. "Marrying you is his blessing from a past life. He's a fool for not appreciating it. Divorce him then." Clara wiped her tear-streaked eyes and looked at Jasper with obsessive affection. If my father hadn't forcibly separated us, we wouldn't have been apart. Jasper's eyes were also red, filled with regret. "I regret not holding on, letting Uncle Lynn break us apart. Every day without you has been like living in hell. I couldn't deceive my heart. I flew all the way back, hoping to find you, but their gasping breaths were locked behind closed doors, and the atmosphere in the room grew more intimate by the second. In the next moment, they were kissing passionately. The sight pierced my heart, a betrayal that sliced through me like a knife. No matter how much time had passed, Clara would always choose Jasper over me. 5 years of marriage now seemed like a cruel joke. I had once believed that the daily companionship we shared would slowly make her love me. Now, I realized I had been fooling myself all along. Only now did I understand the true meaning of heartbreak. Witnessing them in the act, I should have barged in and slapped my unfaithful wife, but something held me back. Reason told me to stay composed, to control myself. After all, she was the woman I had loved for so many years. I made a decision to give her one last bit of dignity. Returning home in a state of despair, my mind was consumed with images of my wife's betrayal. I let out a low growl, slamming my fist into the wall. My knuckles began to bleed, but the pain in my body didn't compare to the crushing pain in my heart. I punched the wall again and again, feeling nothing but the emptiness inside. My wife had reunited with her first love, lost in their happiness, completely disregarding the death of our daughter. I had no time to mourn. Alone, I handled my daughter's funeral arrangements, my heart heavy with grief. I called family and friends to inform them of her passing, and their shock mirrored mine. Sophia's heart surgeries had been successful, and Clara, a pharmaceutical researcher, had the knowledge and resources to help her. This tragedy should never have happened, but I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone about my wife's betrayal, that she had taken the life-saving medication for her first love, despite knowing our daughter's condition. Clara blocked all my contacts, disappearing without a trace. I never expected her to be so heartless. Chapter 5. After the incident with our daughter, I was drowning in grief, unable to pull myself out. Then, one day, several burly men stormed into my house and started beating me without a word. It turned out my wife had hired thugs to threaten me into handing over our daughter. I showed them a photo of our daughter, hoping it would clarify things. "This is who you're looking for." They exchanged confused glances. "We're looking for a living person, not a dead one. Stop trying to fool us with a photo of a dead child." They scoured the house, looking in every corner, but they couldn't find what they were after. Eventually, they left, empty-handed and disappointed. That night, my wife, who had been missing for days, finally returned home. She threw the divorce papers in my face and spat. "I've signed the divorce papers. Now give me back my daughter." The anger I had suppressed for so long ignited inside me. "Clara, are you so eager to divorce me so you can be with Jasper?" My wife didn't even try to hide her love for him. "The person I've always loved is Jasper. Don't think you can use marriage to trap me." She looked at me coldly. "And of course, I'll be taking custody of our daughter." I gave a bitter laugh. "You left without a word and didn't care about our daughter. Aren't you afraid she'll never forgive you?" Clara slapped me hard across the face. "Ethan, is this how you raise our daughter? Trying to turn her against me? You disgust me." Her words shattered my already broken heart. I confronted her angrily. "Clara, have I ever mistreated you? When you didn't want to be separated from your parents, I resigned and moved to your city, starting from scratch. I worked my way up to an executive position, providing you with a comfortable life. I worked myself to the bone every day without complaint. Why do you treat my sincere love with such contempt?" Clara's eyes were filled with mockery. "If you hadn't confessed your feelings to me at the wrong time, my father wouldn't have forced Jasper and me apart. Jasper suffered so much abroad all these years, and it's all your fault." As she spoke, her eyes burned with hatred, as if I were a criminal. 7 years of dedication meant nothing to her. It had all become a burden. If she had been honest with me from the start, I would have let her go. I wouldn't have clung to her. My poor daughter became the tragic victim of this absurd love triangle. Unable to find our daughter, Clara took out her anger on me. "Ethan, I should have let those thugs beat you to death." The heart that had been numb from pain now felt as if it were being wrenched with fresh agony. My wife of 7 years saw me as nothing more than an obstacle to her true love, wishing for my death. Her heart was colder than stone. Clara's patience was wearing thin. "Do you think hiding our daughter will stop me?" She dialed the police, her voice dripping with venom. "Hello, police? My husband has kidnapped our daughter. Please send someone immediately." She wanted to make sure I went to jail, personally sending me there. Would the police be the ones to deliver the news of our daughter's death? Would Clara cry when she learned that it was her actions that had led to our daughter's death? Chapter 6. The police arrived swiftly after receiving Clara's call. With an elated expression, she pointed at me. "Officer, he's the kidnapper. Arrest him immediately." The officer, recognizing me, said, "Mr. Wu, was it your wife who called the police?" "Just a few days ago. I helped you at the station to cancel your daughter's household registration." Officer Lucas, who had assisted me, had shown sympathy for my situation and had offered his condolences. I explained the situation. "Lucas and I are in the process of getting a divorce. She insists that I've hidden our daughter." Officer Lucas understood the situation and spoke to Clara gently. "Mrs. Wu, your daughter, little Wuhan, has already passed away." I was the one who had handled the registration for her, yet Clara's face twisted with disbelief, unable to accept that our daughter was truly gone. "Ethan, you've colluded with the police to deceive me, all to gain custody of our daughter. How can you curse your own child like this? Aren't you afraid of divine retribution?" The police officer gave her a stern warning. "Mrs. Thompson, making false accusations has legal consequences." Seeing Clara's utter disbelief, I led her directly to our daughter's memorial. In the center stood Sophia's black and white portrait, her radiant smile frozen in time, but tragically, her life had ended at the age of 5. Triggered by the portrait, Clara violently knocked over the offerings, her frantic questions piercing the air. "Ethan, where are you hiding our daughter? I'm asking you one last time." I gazed at her, my expression full of scorn. "Our daughter is right here in front of you. Can't you see her?" Her voice grew shrill with panic. "You think I'm stupid, don't you? Do you really believe you can fool me with these childish tricks?" She searched every corner of the room, calling out to her daughter in desperation. "Sophia, stop playing hide and seek with Mommy. Come out now, okay?" Her calls were met with a haunting silence. Clara's panic deepened. "Sophia, if you don't come out right now, Mommy will be very angry." During their games, when Clara pretended to be angry, Sophia would always emerge, trying to please her mother, never wanting to upset her. I quietly began to clean up the mess Clara had made, my emotions beginning to settle. When Jasper had his accident and our daughter fell ill, I begged you to bring back the life-saving medication. But instead, you chose your unforgettable first love, leaving our daughter's life hanging by a thread. Clara, trying to avoid accountability, shifted the blame. Our daughter fell ill right after I left. How could it be a coincidence? Are you trying to punish me by hurting her? I snapped, my voice thunderous. Clara, enough! Our daughter is dead and you killed her! Clara took a step back, disbelief still clouding her face. Sophia's alive! She's not dead! You're lying! You're hiding her! She ripped down the portrait from the wall and hurled it to the ground. Only the dead have memorials! Our Sophia isn't dead! You're bringing misfortune with all this! I stared at the destruction, my anger boiling as my forehead pulsed with tension. Sophia doesn't want to see you. Get out. Chapter 7. During the divorce proceedings, I decided to leave both the house and the car to my ex-wife. She didn't thank me. Instead, she took everything as if it were rightfully hers, calling it compensation for her emotional suffering. I remained silent, packed my bags, and walked out. As I left, I gathered Sophia's belongings. These were the only memories of my daughter, and I had to take them with me. But Clara and her unforgettable first love blocked my exit. She sneered at me. Ethan, I need to check your luggage. Make sure you haven't taken anything you shouldn't have. She assumed I had taken something valuable, so she brought Jasper along to block the door. Jasper fanned the flames. Clara's left with nothing but the clothes on her back. Everything here belongs to you. If he takes anything, it's theft. It's his fault. Clara, without a second thought, dumped my suitcase out onto the floor, scattering my daughter's belongings all over. Jasper, looking down on them, sneered. Just junk. If he wants to take it, let him. Fury surged in me and I punched Jasper square in the face. You don't get to talk about my daughter's things. The anger inside me nearly overwhelmed me, but I controlled myself. Clara stepped forward, positioning herself between me and Jasper. Ethan, if you hit him again, I'll have you thrown in jail. I gently gathered my daughter's keepsakes, treating them like precious treasures. Clara, I have evidence of your affair while we were married, and I can prove that you allowed our daughter to miss the best chance at treatment. What will our family and friends think when they find out? Clara's face contorted in fury. Ethan, are you threatening me? Her concern for her reputation was evident. She would never want her dirty secrets exposed. I chuckled softly. I'm not interested in anything except taking our daughter's belongings. That's all I want. Jasper, still rubbing his face from the punch, muttered, If he wants the kids' things, let him. There's no need to risk losing the house and car over it. Clara hesitated, but Jasper cut her off. That child is gone. It's not her fault. We'll have a healthy child together, right? He wrapped his arms around her neck. I've always wanted to have a child with you. Clara and her unforgettable first love shared a moment of tenderness, completely ignoring me as if I didn't exist. The sharp ache in my chest intensified as I clutched my daughter's belongings. I walked away, not daring to look back. Chapter 8. Barely any time had passed since our daughter's death when my ex-wife flew off to Europe for a vacation with her unforgettable first love. She posted a picture on social media declaring, After all this time, it's still you, Jasper. The photo showed them holding hands, with a screenshot of their plane tickets. Clara was beaming, completely oblivious to the grief that should have been consuming her. They kissed on the beach, felt the ocean breeze, and watched the sunrise and sunset together, while I was left behind with nothing but the remnants of my broken family. Meanwhile, the balance in my salary account was rapidly diminishing, each transaction leaving me with less. Seeing the balance nearing zero, I notified the bank to unlink her supplementary card. Every cent she spent on Jasper after the divorce would be reclaimed by me, without fail. Soon after, Clara's number flashed on my screen. Her voice was sharp, laced with bitterness. Ethan, does it hurt to see me spending your money? You should be honored that I'm willing to spend it. I gripped the phone tightly, my veins bulging, and spoke through clenched teeth. Using my hard-earned money to support a pretty boy, you're really something. You spent 260,000 yuan today. Transfer it back to my account within 3 days, And if even a single cent is missing, I'll take you to court." Clara's arrogance evaporated immediately. "Is it really necessary to take $260,000 to court? You never blinked when I maxed out the card," she replied. I cut her off with a cold laugh. "Don't think you can fool me anymore. If you want money, ask Jasper." Clara tried to manipulate me. "Jasper's been through so much abroad. Coming back was a struggle for him. He doesn't have any money. He's in financial trouble. Can't you help just a little?" The disgust in my stomach almost made me vomit. "Jasper's financial troubles are none of my concern. If you think love is enough, then the two of you can starve together for all I care." With a loud bang, I hung up the phone. Clara's salary wasn't low, but she was a spoiled rich girl, accustomed to extravagant spending. On top of that, the expenses for our daughter's treatments had left her with little savings. Her supplementary card was useless. Losing interest in her vacation, she quickly booked a flight back home and sold her car to repay the money she had taken from my account. My former father-in-law called me, already aware of my divorce from Clara. He sighed. "Clara has been spoiled and willful since she was a child. I failed to educate her properly." "Ethan, I hadn't told anyone about our divorce, but Clara had been flaunting her reunion with her first love on social media and had forgotten to block her parents. Naturally, news of our divorce spread. Thinking of our deceased daughter, my throat tightened as I spoke with a choked voice. On the night Sophia fell ill, Clara went to see Jasper." My former father-in-law was shocked and quickly understood that his granddaughter's death was linked to his daughter's actions. He was furious. "I thought Clara was just a bit willful, but I never imagined she could be so irresponsible." Not long after my call with Mr. Thompson, Clara's call came through. She was furious. "Ethan, you must have slandered me in front of my dad. Now he wants to sever our relationship." With our relationship severed, her family, the last refuge she had, was now gone. Everyone was turning against her, and even her final refuge had been ripped away. I spoke mockingly. "In your belief that love is above all else, with Jasper by your side, what hardship can't you overcome?" Clara tried to comfort herself. "Even if Jasper is poor, I'll stand by him. Even if we have to drink spoiled soup and eat pickled vegetables, life will still be sweet." I smirked. "Then I wish you happiness." Chapter 9. On the grassy field, a young girl played joyfully, her sweet smile radiating across her face. Her bright eyes sparkled, brighter than the stars in the night sky. After Sophia passed away, I made a bold decision. I donated her corneas to a young girl who had lost her sight in a car accident, helping her regain her vision. The girl could now see the world through my daughter's eyes, experiencing its beauty and wonder. Though my daughter was gone, she remained in this world in a different way. Whenever I missed Sophia, I would visit the girl who had received her corneas. One day, the little girl ran up to me with her dark, bright eyes blinking. "Uncle, why do I feel so sad when I see you?" I gently stroked her cheek, as if my daughter were still beside me. The little girl had my daughter's corneas and seemed to share her emotions. She hugged me tightly. "Uncle, I don't know why, but I suddenly want to hug you." I held her close. "Sweetheart, promise me you'll live a happy and joyful life." The girl nodded, her understanding clear. "Uncle, even though I've never met you before, you feel so familiar to me. Will you come see me often?" Her adorable manner made me smile. "Of course I will." She hooked her pinky with mine. "Then let's make a promise you can't break." A young woman came running over, breathless. Her name was Amelia, a single mother, and she recognized me immediately. "Mr. Wu, it's you." I felt a little embarrassed. "Miss E, I came to see Emmy. I hope I didn't disturb you." Amelia was very polite. "You donated your daughter's corneas, giving my Emmy the chance to see again. I'm eternally grateful." Amelia's daughter had been in a car accident, and her heartless husband had refused to pay for the medical expenses, even asking for a divorce. I had been betrayed by my wife and had lost my daughter, now alone. Perhaps our shared misfortunes made us feel like kindred spirits, meeting too late. Amelia's tears fell like pear blossoms. "Mr. Wu, you must be a loving person. Emmy is very lucky to have someone like you who selflessly gave so that she could regain her sight. Her eyes were filled with gratitude as she looked at me, and I felt a mix of emotions. Miss Zhang, you must love your daughter very much. Emmy is lucky to have a mother like you. If only Clara had loved her daughter as much, maybe the tragedy would have never happened. I wondered, would my daughter have resented her mother as she left this world? Amelia's almond-shaped eyes curved into a gentle smile. Mr. Wu, if you're willing, Emmy can be your goddaughter. You can visit her any time you want. Her bright smile seemed to erase all the gloom in the world. Every expression of hers was lively and engaging. Realizing my sudden rudeness, I quickly looked away. We should ask Emmy what she thinks. Emmy jumped into my arms. Uncle, I like you. Can you be my godfather? Her clear, lively eyes sparkled with sincerity. I saw Sophia's reflection in the little girl, Emmy, and it hit me. Sophia had allowed this child, Emmy, to live a happy life for her. Chapter 10. After our divorce, Clara couldn't help but flaunt her new life with Jasper on social media. When she was with me, she enjoyed luxurious meals like bird's nest soup and shark fin, but now, with someone else, she was content with simple meals. Her posts read, "Love makes even the simplest meals sweet and fulfilling." I couldn't hold back a mocking laugh and immediately blocked her updates. While our maid continued to prepare bird's nest soup and shark fin for her daily, she complained that I was preventing her from losing weight. I treated her like royalty, but she had no qualms about criticizing me in front of other men. If she wanted hardship, I thought, let her go and experience it, free from the ties of our past life. I, on the other hand, thrived in my career, rising higher and higher. I became a trusted lieutenant to the general manager, who saw my exceptional abilities and promoted me to vice president. I heard through the grapevine that Jasper was planning to start a business, and Clara, in her foolishness, sold our house to fund his venture. Jasper convinced her he needed more capital, and she eagerly transferred money, first selling her designer bags and jewelry, then taking out an online loan for 3 million yuan. In total, nearly 5 million yuan was sent to Jasper. She was dreaming of a life as a wealthy lady, imagining that Jasper would become successful, but once he had the money, he disappeared, blocking all her contact methods. Homeless and broke, Clara came crawling back to me, hoping I would give her some financial help. Even after everything Jasper had done, she still clung to her delusion. Jasper must be working on something big. He just can't tell me right now. He loves me so much. How could he deceive me? I sneered. If he's so wonderful, why are you here asking me for help? Clara shamelessly pleaded. Lend me 50,000 yuan. I'll pay you back when I have the money. You make over 1 million a year. Can't you spare me 50,000? Seeing my indifference, she grew more desperate. We were married once. Can't you bear to see me homeless? I looked at her with cold detachment. Clara, your situation is your own doing. We're divorced. Your well-being is no longer my concern. Clara clung to my sleeve, pleading with a pitiful look. I have nowhere else to go. Can you at least let me stay for the night? If you don't help me, I'll have to sleep on the street. In the past, a few soft words from her would have made me do anything for her, even if she had asked for my life. But now, she had worn down my love, leaving me completely disillusioned. I shook her hand off coldly. Clara, if you starve on the street, it's your fault. Clara held on, tears welling in her eyes. Ethan, I know you still love me. What you said was just out of anger. Just then, Amelia walked in with a cheerful smile, but it froze when she saw Clara. Am I interrupting something? I walked over and gently put my arm around Amelia's shoulders, casually explaining, she's just someone insignificant. Clara rushed toward us, fuming. Ethan, are you treating me like this because you're involved with this vixen? She lunged at Amelia, but I shoved her to the ground. If you disrespect Amelia again, I won't hold back. Clara looked at me, her face a picture of helplessness. Ethan, are you really going to abandon me? Chapter 11. Seeing my ex-wife's miserable situation filled me with a sense of vindication. Beyond hatred, I felt nothing for her. When did I stop loving her? Even I couldn't pinpoint the moment. Maybe it was when she constantly deceived me, secretly meeting Jasper, or when she chose to abandon our daughter and use the life-saving medication on Jasper instead. This time, I wanted nothing to do with her. Jasper had played her for a fool, pretending to love her until he had drained every last bit of value from her, and then disappeared with the money. Clara discovered his travel plans and chased after him across the country. Her pursuit almost cost her life. As soon as she arrived, she was kidnapped, and the captors demanded $1 million ransom. Terrified, she called her parents in China, begging them to pay the ransom. Despite the distance and their strained relationship, her parents acted swiftly to arrange the ransom when they learned their daughter's life was in danger. At Mr. Thompson's request, I reached out to the Chinese embassy, asking for their assistance in securing her release. The embassy worked tirelessly with local authorities, hoping to mobilize resources to rescue her. But in a place like Myanmar, where human life was often disregarded, even paying the ransom wouldn't guarantee her safety. Thanks to the combined efforts of the embassy and the local police, Clara, though shaken and bruised, managed to board a flight back home. She was visibly affected by the ordeal, but as I watched her return, I realized so many things. The figure I had once chased in my youth was nothing but a dream, a fantasy I had built for myself. Now, waking from that dream, I had to face the painful reality of my actions. I had no intention of being further entangled with her and turned to leave, but then she grabbed my hand, her voice strained. "Ethan, thank you for taking care of me all these years. I've never regretted having Sophia." My tone was distant, cold. "Clara, I've decided to return to Ning. We probably won't see each other again." Her eyes welled up with tears. "Amelia is so gentle and understanding. She must be a southern girl, right? Are you together?" Unintentionally, my gaze softened. "Amelia is wonderful. We share common interests, and we never run out of things to talk about. She's from the South and isn't used to living up here, so we decided it's best to move back south." Clara's nose turned red as she trembled, her voice breaking. "Ethan, is there really no chance for us?" I let out a light laugh. Every step I took before felt like walking on the edge of a knife, bleeding yet refusing to give up. Eventually I realized you can't force feelings. Tears began to pour down Clara's face as she finally understood that she had lost the one person who truly loved her. She now deeply regretted it. "What can I do to make you come back to me?" Painful memories flashed through my mind like a slideshow, each image more unbearable than the last. I had to say it. "We can't go back, it's too late." Her tears fell in large drops, but this time she didn't try to stop me. As I turned to leave, her voice came to me in broken fragments. "Ethan, you must be happy." I paused for a moment, then whispered softly, "I will be." In my heart I thought, I will definitely be happy.